Hello, my name is Pam Weiner and I'm the Subject Officer for Drama, and I'm going to talk you through the WJEC Eduqas Specification for GCSE Drama. Eduqas is the new brand from WJEC specifically for centres in England. It provides Ofqual regulated reformed qualifications to secondary schools and colleges. It is enabling teachers to clearly distinguish between the qualifications in England and those that are currently in Wales under the WJEC brand. So, why choose Eduqas? Well, first of all, the student is at the heart of everything that we do. The assessment will be clear, and the examination materials and the teaching resources will be of a high quality. Within each of the qualifications, there are opportunities to stretch and challenge students. Every year, a series of professional development courses are delivered and offered. And along with this, there is personal and friendly support from subject experts via the telephone, email, and face-to-face through CPDs. Specifications are designed by teachers and subject specialists, and these subject specialists are involved throughout the whole exam cycle. Key features. The qualification structure means that there is clear, reliable assessment of all of the elements of the subject defined by the DFE requirements. All questions are designed to enable learners to demonstrate what they know, what they understand, and what they can do. There is an awareness that the assessment must cater for the whole ability range. The whole examining team are very experienced, from the senior examiners all the way up to the chair of examiners and everyone involved. You will have direct access to subject experts via email and or the telephone. Every year, there is face-to-face CPD, covering a range of features of the exam assessments. And there are also extensive online resources for teachers and learners. With GCSE Drama, some of the specific specification content allows opportunities to engage with live theatre throughout the course. There are also a range of design options, including lighting, sound, set, costume and makeup. There is also a mixture of internally and externally assessed practical work. Looking at the specification in a little bit more detail, the summary of the assessment is that it will be taught from 2016, with first awarding from 2018. The assessment is only available in the May to June of the year of the qualification. Component 1 is called Devising Theatre. This component is internally assessed and externally moderated and forms 40% of the qualification. Component 2 is called Performing from a Text. This is externally assessed by a visiting examiner and forms 20% of the qualification. And finally, Component 3, Interpreting Theatre. This is the written examination, and it will last an hour and 30 minutes and forms 40% of the qualification. So now we will look at some of the components in a little bit more detail. Component 1, Devising Theatre. For this component, learners will be assessed on either acting or design. They will participate in the creation, development and performance of a piece of devised theatre, and within this they will use either the techniques of an influential theatre practitioner or a genre, and it will be in response to a stimulus set by the WJEC. For this component, learners must produce a realisation of their piece of devised theatre, showing their performance or design, a portfolio of supporting evidence, and an evaluation of the final performance or design. Component 2, Performing from a Text. For this component, learners will also be assessed on either acting or design, and this can be the same option that they chose for Component 1 or a different one. For this component, learners will study 2 extracts from the same performance text, and this is a choice from the centre. Learners then participate in one performance using sections of text from both of these extracts. And then component 3, interpreting theatre. In section A of this paper, the learners will answer a series of questions on one set text from a choice of 5. And these set texts are The Tempest by William Shakespeare, The Caucasian Chalk Circle by Bertolt Brecht, Hard to Swallow by Mark Wheeler, War Horse, written by Michael Morpurgo, adapted by Nick Stafford, and DNA, written by Dennis Kelly. Section B of the paper is the live theatre review. Learners will have to answer one question from a choice of 2, and within this, they have to analyse and evaluate a given aspect of a live theatre production seen during the course. So the assessment objectives. Assessment objective 1 is 20% of the course, and that's where learners have to create and develop ideas to communicate meaning for theatrical performance. Assessment objective 2 is 30% of the qualification, where learners have to apply theatrical skills to realise artistic intentions in live performance. Assessment objective 3, again 30% of the qualification, where learners demonstrate knowledge and understanding of how drama and theatre is developed and performed. And finally, assessment objective 4, 20% of the qualification, where learners analyse and evaluate their own work and the work of others. Here you can see how these components and the assessment objectives are distributed. The idea is that by the end of the course, all learners will have a broad subject knowledge and understanding. Now we will have a look at how each component is assessed in a little bit more detail. Starting with component 1, devising theatre. Assessment objective 1 is assessed, and it's 20% of the qualification and is worth 30 marks. And to remind you, this is where learners have to create and develop ideas to communicate meaning for performance. And this is assessed during the devising part of the component. The portfolio of supporting evidence provides the evidence for this assessment objective, which demonstrates the research, the creation, development, and refinement of ideas in preparation for the devised performance. There are separate assessment grids for performing and design candidates. Although within the first column, creating and developing ideas, this is identical in both of the grids. Within this assessment objective, learners are assessed on ideas that are created in response to the stimulus, how they have used the practitioner or genre techniques, how they've contributed to the process individually, how they have developed character, mood and atmosphere, and how they've selected performance or design conventions and techniques, how they've used the space, design cues, and so on. Assessment Objective 2 is worth 15 marks in Component 1, and this is where they apply theatrical skills to realise their artistic intentions in live performance. Assessment Objective 2 is assessed through the final performance or design only. And again, there are separate assessment grids for performing and design candidates. Essentially, learners are here assessed on how well they realise their artistic intentions, how they apply their design and performance skills, how they interpret the character or the scene, and how they contribute to the final performance as an individual. And finally, for Component 1, Assessment Objective 4 is worth 15 marks, and this is where they analyse and evaluate their own work, and this is assessed through the evaluation. This evaluation is completed under timed conditions after the performance of the piece. Again, there are separate grids for performing and design candidates. As a reminder, learners are asked to analyse and evaluate the final performance or design, because during the supporting evidence, that's where they account for the process. Learners are assessed on their analysis and evaluation of their application of the design and performance skills, their interpretation of the character or scene as seen in performance, and their final contribution to the final performance. And moving on to component 2, performing from a text. This component assesses assessment objective 2 only and is worth 60 marks. There are separate assessment grids for performers and designers, and all learners are assessed on the application of their performing or design skills within the performance, how they have interpreted the character or the scene, their communication, and their individual contribution to the performance. And finally, the assessment details of Component 3, Interpreting Theatre. AOs 3 and 4 are assessed through the written exam. It is an open book exam and it will last an hour and 30 minutes. And this is an opportunity for learners to show their knowledge and understanding of how drama and theatre is developed and performed, as well as to analyse and evaluate a piece of live theatre. Section A is where they answer questions on the set text. It is advised that centres must approach the study of the text practically, and also to study this text from the viewpoint of director, actor, and designer, and within that, use appropriate theatrical terminology. There will be a series of questions on that set text that will encounter all of these aspects. Section B, the exploration of live theatre. Centres should ensure that candidates have viewed at least one piece of live theatre through the course. Within this, it can include the streaming of productions, for example, NT Live or digital theatre. But it is advisable that they see at least one piece of live theatre where at all possible. And from these productions, learners will be required to consider the role of the actor, the designer, and the director from their point of view as a member of an audience. So we'll have a look now at some of the sample questions that candidates may encounter within the paper. So, for example, questions from a point of view of a director might include naming and explaining how rehearsal techniques could be used to prepare an actor for a role. In these examples, the role of Simon. Or they might have questions from the point of view of a designer. In these examples, candidates are asked to think about the social class of a character and how it might be reflected within the costume. And in this last example, from Section B, it's from the viewpoint of an audience member. And in this one, learners are asked to evaluate the lighting and sound within two key scenes of a production that they have seen. They're asked to mention the style of the production and how lighting and sound was used to create atmosphere and communicate meaning, and how they responded to it as an audience member. Remember that this would be one of two questions that would be in Section B. In referencing the Component 3 mark scheme, indicative content is provided for all questions, although all valid alternatives will be considered by the examiners. Longer responses, for example of that above, which is 15 marks, will be assessed using bands of achievement. And marking grids will be clearly linked to the assessment objectives. Another major advantage of choosing Eduqas, there are a whole host of resources that teachers can use to help them with their delivery of the courses. The first port of call would be the Eduqas website. And there are specific subject pages for drama with the latest information and all qualification documents. And these documents and resources are regularly updated. There are also a number of online resources. and these are an extensive range of free digital educational resources that will support teaching of this qualification from start to finish. We also continue to work with publishers to provide a range of textbooks to support the teaching of our qualifications. We also have our secure website. There you can find a range of exclusive resources which are not freely available on the Eduqas public website. There is also the online exam review, the OER, and our OER website is an interactive teaching and learning tool based on actual responses to exam tasks. It brings together questions, example material, marking schemes, and examiners' comments online. It's particularly useful in the classroom. We also have the Exam Results Analysis, the ERA. And this facility allows teachers to compare the performance of individual students and the centre's entry as a whole with all WJEC candidates for a particular qualification. And finally, we have the CPD training courses. We offer face-to-face CPD courses in order to review internal and external assessment, as well as to introduce new specifications. These courses are facilitated and presented by the WJEC, and you will have a subject specialist that will be delivering at each one of these. Thank you for watching. Details for subject specialists are available on the website.